When Father Gabriel Amorth opened the gates of hell, he didn't expect to meet a king. Not a metaphorical one, a real one, ancient, merciless, and burning with pride. They called him Asmodeus, the demon of lust, the destroyer of marriages, the prince of vengeance. But those names don't do him justice, because Asmodeus isn't just a tempter, he's a strategist, a general of hell's armies, and one of the few demons whose existence spans multiple religions, cultures, and thousands of years of human fear. The film, The Pope's Exorcist, gave us a glimpse of this entity, hiding behind false faces, twisting faith into torment. But the real Asmodeus? He's far older and far more horrifying than Hollywood could ever show. Today we're diving deep into forbidden texts, biblical legends, and chilling exorcism records to uncover the truth behind the demon who almost broke the church itself. This is the true story of Asmodeus. Part 1. The name that bleeds through time. Before the Pope's Exorcist made him a cinematic icon of evil, Asmodeus had already haunted humanity for nearly 3,000 years. His name first appeared in the book of Tobit, one of the ancient texts of the Hebrew Bible. In that story, Asmodeus is a jealous spirit, obsessed with a mortal woman named Sarah. Every time she tried to marry, Asmodeus murdered her husbands on their wedding night. 7 men died before the angel Raphael intervened, binding Asmodeus in chains and banishing him to the deserts of Egypt. But that's only the beginning. The ancient rabbis described him as a demon born from the union of an angel and a human woman, a hybrid of heaven's beauty and hell's fury. Others said he was the child of Lilith, the mother of demons and a fallen seraph. Whatever his origin, one thing remained constant: his appetite for destruction and his hatred of mankind. In the Talmud, Asmodeus is called the king of the Shedim, a race of shadowy demons who wander the earth at night, invisible to human eyes. He's a trickster, intelligent, mocking, and sadistically clever. One tale even says he briefly ruled over Israel after deceiving King Solomon himself. Imagine that. The wisest man in history, outsmarted by a demon. And yet, that story would become a blueprint for how Asmodeus operates, not by brute force, but by deception, by wearing masks. Part 2. The King of Demons and the Fall of Solomon. According to the Testament of Solomon, a forbidden text written between the 1st and 5th centuries, Asmodeus was summoned by King Solomon himself, who sought to understand and command the demons that plagued mankind. When the demon appeared, he was magnificent and terrible, his eyes burning like molten copper, his voice shaking the air. Solomon demanded his name and purpose. The demon replied, "I am Asmodeus, the destroyer. I plot against the newlywed and bring ruin to the beds of men. I am the cause of jealousy and broken oaths." Solomon, armed with the ring of God, forced Asmodeus to reveal his weaknesses. The demon confessed that he could be defeated only by the angel Raphael, or by the smoke of a burning fish's heart and liver, a strange echo of the ritual used in the book of Tobit. For a time, Solomon enslaved Asmodeus, forcing him to labor in building the great temple of Jerusalem. But the demon bided his time. In one story, Solomon grew arrogant and mocked him, and Asmodeus, cunning as ever, turned the tables. He tricked Solomon into removing his magical ring, then cast the king into exile, ruling in his place for 40 days before the deception was discovered. It's more than a legend, it's a parable, showing how pride, even in the wise, can open the door to the demonic. Asmodeus wasn't just a creature of lust, He was a symbol of corrupted wisdom, a being who could infect not only flesh, but faith. Part 3. Asmodeus in the Church's eyes. When Christianity rose, the Church absorbed many of these older demons into its theology, and Asmodeus became something darker. Medieval demonologists, from the Lesser Key of Solomon to Colin de Plancy's Dictionnaire Infernal, called him a prince of hell, commanding 72 legions of demons. They said he sat upon a dragon breathing fire, crowned with serpents, his 3 faces twisted, one like a bull, one like a man, one like a ram. Each face spoke a different sin. In the grimoires of the 16th and 17th centuries, he was named the overseer of gambling houses and brothels, a corrupter of human passion. But priests whispered another title, the architect of possession. Because, unlike many demons, Asmodeus didn't possess through force. He seduced, he whispered, he made his victims want it. When the Roman Church compiled the Rituale Romanum, the official text for exorcisms, Asmodeus's name appeared again and again in accounts of possession, always accompanied by the same symptoms: perverse obsession, uncontrollable desire, and the defilement of sacred objects. Father Amorth himself, the real exorcist who inspired the Pope's Exorcist, mentioned demons like Asmodeus as masters of the infernal hierarchy, those who attack not the body, but the soul. To fight them wasn't just to cast out a spirit, it was to battle an intelligence older than sin. Part 4. The Mask of the Church. Asmodeus has worn many masks, and perhaps the most terrifying is the one that looks like faith itself. During the Middle Ages, countless monks wrote of visions in which Asmodeus appeared not as a beast, but as a priest. He wore the robes of holiness, spoke in gentle tones, quoted scripture perfectly, until his words twisted almost imperceptibly into poison. The theologian Michael Sellas once described such an encounter. He came in light and the smell of incense, but when I prayed, the light turned black, and I knew then that he was no angel. That's what makes Asmodeus so dangerous. He doesn't need to roar, he whispers. He turns devotion into obsession, purity into pride. In his presence, even the sacred becomes suspect. And that's exactly what the Pope's Exorcist captures. A church haunted not only by its enemies, but by its own shadows. In the film, Asmodeus doesn't merely possess a boy. He infiltrates faith itself, digging into guilt, shame, and arrogance. He doesn't want to destroy the church, he wants it to destroy itself. Part 5. The real cases that inspired the movie. Father Gabriel Amorth, the real Vatican exorcist portrayed by Russell Crowe, was not a man of superstition. He laughed often. He joked about the devil, but behind that humor was a man who had faced something that defied all explanation. Over his lifetime, Amorth claimed to have performed more than 70,000 exorcisms. Most were mild, psychological, not supernatural, but a few were different. In one case, he wrote, "The possessed spoke in multiple languages, none of which the victim had ever learned." In another, a woman levitated during the ritual, her eyes rolling back as she screamed a name Amorth had only ever read in forbidden texts. Asmodeus. He described the demon as a presence of ancient royalty, arrogant and unyielding. When confronted with prayers, it didn't rage, it mocked. It told Amorth that it once ruled under Solomon, that it had walked through empires whispering ruin into the ears of kings. And when Amorth asked what it wanted, the voice answered simply, "To be remembered." That line stuck with him, because that's the true power of demons. Not just to possess, but to persist, to survive through culture, myth, and now, cinema. Part 6. Asmodeus in Hell's Hierarchy. In the infernal hierarchies described by Renaissance occultists, Asmodeus isn't a mere tempter. He's a king. Specifically, one of the three rulers under Lucifer, alongside Beelzebub and Leviathan. Each governs a sin, and Asmodeus's domain is lust and corruption through pleasure. But deeper texts, like Johann Weyer's Pseudomonarchia Daemonum, portray him differently, not as a laughing seducer, but as a fallen angel of reason. Before the fall, he was said to be among the brightest minds in heaven, an architect of celestial design. When Lucifer rebelled, Asmodeus followed, but not out of loyalty, out of curiosity. He wanted to see if rebellion could perfect creation, and in that prideful thought, he fell. That's why, in the grimoires, he's always depicted with tools of craftsmanship, compasses, rods, geometry. He's not chaos, he's order corrupted, and that makes him infinitely more terrifying than beasts or ghouls, because where others destroy, Asmodeus builds. Cathedrals of sin, systems of temptation, beauty laced with decay. In one chilling medieval prayer against him, a monk wrote, "From the architect of despair, deliver us, for he builds our ruin brick by brick and makes it beautiful to behold." Part 7. The Vatican's Secret Files. Rumors persist, especially after the release of the Pope's Exorcist, that the Vatican holds a secret dossier on Asmodeus, a file that traces his appearances throughout history in possessions, in cursed relics, even in architecture. Some conspiracy theorists claim the crypt beneath St. Peter's Basilica hides artifacts taken from Solomon's temple, items that once bound Asmodeus. Others whisper that the demon was never truly exorcised from earth, merely chained, waiting for faith itself to weaken enough for him to rise again. In a 1984 interview, Amorth was asked if he believed any demon could truly die. He smiled, then answered, "No, they only sleep, until we give them reason to wake." That line became prophetic, because what happens when a billion people watch a movie that resurrects a name once sealed in sacred silence? What happens when Asmodeus is spoken again, on millions of tongues, in darkness, through laughter and fear? Maybe that's the real possession, memory itself. Part 8. The Symbols in the Pope's Exorcist. Watch closely, and you'll see that the Pope's Exorcist is full of hidden nods to Asmodeus's history. The boy's possession takes place beneath an old Spanish abbey, once a fortress during the Inquisition. The frescoes on the wall show scenes of Solomon's temple cracked and burned, and the demon speaks Latin, but slips into Aramaic when mocking holy verses, the same language used in the Book of Tobit. Even the film's final confrontation mirrors Solomon's legend, a priest stripped of power, facing a demon of pride, forced to use not strength, but faith and humility. That's what makes Asmodeus terrifying. He doesn't fight fair. He turns your strengths into weaknesses, your faith into vanity, your love into chains. Part 9. The Aftermath. In the film's ending, Father Amorth discovers that Asmodeus was part of a greater pattern, one of 200 hidden possessions designed to infiltrate the church itself. But in the deeper lore, it's worse, because according to demonologists, Asmodeus doesn't act alone. He commands legions of succubi, spirits of lust that drain willpower and faith, slowly transforming the host's soul into something unrecognizable. In Amorth's journals, there's one passage that stands out, written after an exorcism in Rome, 1996. He told me, "You wear your cross like armor, but armor rusts. Every prayer leaves a crack, every sin widens it, and through that crack, I enter." That's the essence of Asmodeus. He doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs you to destroy yourself. And when that happens, he doesn't shout in triumph. He smiles. Part 10. The Demon in Modern Times. Asmodeus may belong to ancient scripture, but his fingerprints are everywhere. In the whispers of obsession, in the quiet decay of self-control. Modern theology doesn't speak of him often. Psychology calls it addiction, compulsion, self-destruction. But listen closely to those who've stood at the edge of faith and madness, and they'll tell you the name still lingers. Father Amorth once wrote that demonic activity changes with the times. In the Dark Ages, it was witchcraft. In the Renaissance, heresy. In the modern world, desire. He believed demons adapt to culture. They evolve alongside us. Asmodeus no longer hides behind ancient idols or pagan rituals. He hides in the mirror, in the screen glow that never turns off, in the things we love too much until they love us back in all the wrong ways. In one late interview, when asked whether he believed demons could use media to influence the world, Amorth said quietly, "The devil doesn't need to appear anymore. He's already viral." Part 11. The Lure of Lust and Control. Throughout history, Asmodeus's sin has been called lust, but that's only part of it. It's not about sex, it's about possession, about controlling what cannot be controlled. In the grimoires, he's said to appear when humans mistake passion for purpose, when love becomes domination, when curiosity becomes obsession, when pleasure becomes worship. That's when he's closest, because his true goal is not to make you sin, but to make you justify it. That's what makes him invincible. Not his strength, but his reason. Asmodeus doesn't scream. He debates. He convinces you that good and evil are just opinions. And once you believe that, he's already won. In the Pope's Exorcist, when Father Amorth shouts, "You are nothing compared to God," and Asmodeus laughs, that's the oldest sound in history. Because every exorcism, every struggle between man and demon, is just an echo of one cosmic argument. Who deserves control? God or us? Part she, er. Legends never die. Even after centuries, Asmodeus refuses to fade. He has crossed religions, civilizations, and languages. In Jewish lore, he's the destroyer of marriage. In Christian grimoires, he's the king of lust. In Persian texts, he's Ishmadeva, the spirit of wrath and vengeance. Different names, same hunger, and perhaps that's why he endures. Because Asmodeus isn't a creature you can kill. He's an idea. He's the embodiment of temptation dressed as logic, of beauty that leads to decay. He's everything we want but shouldn't have, given a name and a crown. In that sense, the real horror isn't that Asmodeus exists. It's that we created him. Every culture that feared its own weakness gave him new form. Every generation that lost control gave him new power. And every time we think we've outgrown superstition, he finds another way in. Part 13. The Final Exorcism. Let's imagine just for a moment the final confrontation. The last exorcism humanity ever performs. The church is empty. The candles have burned to stubs. And a priest stands alone before the demon king. He doesn't hold holy water or relics. He just whispers, "You're not real." And Asmodeus smiles, because disbelief is the sweetest victory of all. For a being whose power comes from faith, the death of faith is the final possession. That's the paradox Father Amorth understood, that evil doesn't need worshippers. It only needs doubt. Asmodeus feeds not on the scream, but the silence that follows. Part 14. The Legacy of Fear. When the Pope's Exorcist ends, it suggests that Amorth's war is far from over, that more demons are waiting beneath the Vatican stones. But in truth, the war was never in the catacombs. It's in us, in every choice we make to feed what weakens us. In every moment, we twist good intentions into vanity. That's where Asmodeus lives, not in flames, but in habits, not in possession, but in persuasion. And maybe that's why he's more terrifying than any monster on screen, because he's not fiction. He's the reflection of a truth we'd rather not face. That evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in our own voice. Part 15, the closing rite. So, what does the Church say now? Most priests would call Asmodeus a myth, a remnant of ancient symbolism. But the Vatican still trains exorcists. They still keep the Rituale Romanum under lock and key. And behind every ritual, every prayer of protection, every drop of holy water cast into the dark, lies the same fear that something out there still listens. If Father Amorth were here, perhaps he'd laugh and say, "Don't worry, God always wins." And maybe he's right. But victory doesn't mean the war is over, because evil doesn't need to win. It just needs to be remembered. And tonight, as we speak his name, we've done exactly that. He was once an angel of creation. Now he builds only ruins. His name is Asmodeus, and wherever faith falters, he rises again.